Thank you, Seth.
First I've ever seen this.
All right, so with that, we will call to order the Scituate Zoning Board of Appeals Thursday, June 26, 2025 meeting here in the Joseph P. Norton Emergency Operations Center. The Scituate Zoning Board of Appeals is committed to providing an environment of respect during meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there is disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards to support and respect our community. We meet in person and via Zoom. All meetings are recorded and can be viewed on Scituate Community Television, Facebook Live. Recorded meetings are available the following day on Comcast Online and YouTube, the Scituate Community Television meeting. Thank you. Come on in. With that, we will call the first application, which is a continuance from the May 15th, 2025 hearing of Ms. Jennifer Smith, 1026 Franklin Street, Duxbury, on behalf of Mark Chalmers, 133 Maple Street, requesting a special permit finding in accordance with MGL 48, Section 6 and Section 810 of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaws, and or any other relief the Board of Appeals may grant to allow the construction of an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling lot located at 133 Maple. Do we have applicants for that here today or online? Online? Elizabeth, can we get our person online?
I can assist here. If you are here for that this specific topic, just raise your hand. Raise your hand if you don't.
I assume it's Jennifer Smith.
Is it Jennifer Smith?
There she is.
I got you, Elizabeth. Ms. Smith, you should be able to unmute and start your video if you so wish.
All right, you are still on mute, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. Yes, so we were sent off to meet with conservation the last time. We've been working for several weeks now between our engineer and then their engineer that they hired to come up with the correct stormwater situation and all of that. We met with them the other night and they sent us off to do a few more tweaks with the stormwater and make a couple more arrangements, which Mackenzie engineer did do and submitted to conservation today. So everything they have, all the guidelines have been met. And then they needed to do some digging as well. And they gave us the opportunity to do the digging, the soil testing while we dig for the foundation once we get started. So everything else has been met and that's in Jen's office now. So
great. So the current, as of right now, the site plan that is dated, as I go blind in my old age, 21st May 2025 by Mackenzie is the latest site plan, correct?
okay, that would probably be, I think I submitted it last week. Mackenzie did do an updated verse based on the conservation meeting the other night. And that can be forwarded over to you guys. That shows everything that conservation had asked for to make sure that this project meets all of your guidelines. But again, that was just this morning, so you wouldn't have a hard copy of that.
Okay. Do we have any copy of that?
I have the electronic version if that would help, just so you have it. I can bring it.
I don't know if Elizabeth, can you get to it? So there is an ongoing, so a lot of work has been done. Thank you. Glad Conservation Commission has been working with you guys very diligently. We can't approve a plan that we don't have, right? So that's part one. Part two is, and this has come up before, is what is your total impervious as built, as proposed?
Can you ask that?
Go ahead. And as far as a percentage goes.
We were at, I think it was, I know there was I can't remember the exact.
Okay. So the exact was going to be important.
Yeah.
Because there's a 15% number, right? You are definitely above that. There's a 20% number, right? And our ability to approve might be impacted by that number, regardless of the mitigation measures that you've put in, right? Because of where this is located, right? In what district it's located. So we kind of need to know that, and we need to know that number and the plan as finally decided on.
Yeah, number I do believe is on the plan that you're looking at right now.
Right, so the plan that I have right now is 21.93 impervious.
Yeah.
Is that the final number?
Well, that is a good question. I think that the final thing that was said at the conservation meeting the other night by the gentleman said that he was explaining that we're only 50%, we're at the 50% line, not the 100%, and that he didn't see any reason why what we're doing is beyond what they can approve. He was just very optimistic. So he was no longer mentioning that percentage. So I'm not really sure. I'm not the best expert on that, but that was no longer
So,
prime focus for them.
so, and I'll read you something that was raised to us about this, which says, in our bylaws, it said land uses that render impervious any lot or parcel more than 15% or 2,500 square feet, whichever is greater, but no more than 20% with artificial recharge. Now, you have the artificial recharge, right? I see it in the plans. That's what you're working on. But you're above the 20% number. So the question is whether we can, what the number really is in your final as-built plan, right?
Yeah.
And then once we know that, whether we even have the power to approve this under the bylaws. That's kind of where, Chris, am I saying, I mean, are you,
Yes.
please feel free to comment on this because it's an issue that I know you've thought about. So feel free.
The impervious, the number that we have right now is at greater than the 20%. And this section of the bylaw offers no flexibility as far as,
Going beyond that number.
going beyond that number. This is a very rigid standard meant to protect our water, our drinking water resources. So, there's not a lot of flexibility here.
Bob, comment on this? 'Cause-
No, but I basically agree with that statement.
Right. Right. I mean, I think it's a great plan. I think it will, I don't know, I am not a hydrologist. But my concern, and they've done all the right stuff, I think they're just a little bit too big. And because this is in a water research protection district zone A, right?
Yes.
Right. I mean, I don't even think we have the ability to grant the variance, right? Because it has to be, we can grant the variance if it's outside zone A or zone 2. This is in zone A. So the way I read, and others may have a different opinion, right?
Yeah.
But the way I read the bylaws and the way I think Chris reads the bylaws, we're hamstrung there because we're not outside zone A, we're in zone A. So we have to fall under the 15%, 2,500 or up to 20% with artificial recharge. So that's where we are. Not having the final plan in front of us. And I know you guys have been working very hard with Conservation Commission on this. I don't know, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back and take a look at that provision and see if you can modify this in a way that you get under that 20% with the recharge of impervious? I mean, I don't know that there's that much more that you'd have to do to the site in order to do that, but it's your call.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that I am experienced enough to know that I am not experienced enough to answer that.
Okay.
Because I do know that when you guys sent us off to conservation, there's a lot of things that they're looking at, and they were very specific about what they wanted initially, and the engineers didn't quite meet that. So they were sent back to the drawing board to finish, finalize everything that the their engineer said that we needed.
Correct.
And that was done. So anything beyond that with you guys, I don't know. I think that we've met everything you need, but it sounds like maybe that's not the case.
Well, I think again, I think, and again, I'll open it up to the board if anybody else has, because I don't want to take a vote on it. Take a vote on
We
it.
can't take a vote on
Yeah, I mean, we could, right?
it. So I think as far as the things that we need, when you come to zoning, you know, we handle the entire zoning bylaw. So we look at this lot and we see what districts is, you know, what your setbacks need to be, but also things like, you know, you are in a water resource protection district. So you have to meet those regulations. You're in a, you know, a buffer zone, a zone A. So you have to meet those regulations. So there's a litany of things that we need to see to go through this. You've done the setbacks, we got that, all that stuff. Conservation's a piece of it, but that's not the part that we cover.
Oh, okay.
Right,
I
so
think that where I left it, just to say, when we first started and we were sent to conservation, I know that when I was talking to Bob, the commissioner, he looked at the plan and he, at that time, said there was nothing that he saw that would be an issue moving forward. And then conservation came into it to do their part. I thought, I was under the understanding this whole time that once we met conservation, then that would be okay, since this is pre-existing lot.
yeah, so you have, with respect to kind of how you're dealing with the remediation, right? And conservation has done a lot of work with you guys to get this on the right side of the Water Resource Protection District. But there is a very specific bylaw that has a numerical amount associated with it, right? That you one, have to meet, and two, our flexibility to approve in spite of that, not meeting that particular numeric number is limited, right? Right, we can't even grant you, so we don't seem to have the power to grant you a special permit with these numbers. And we can't grant you a variance because it specifically says we can't in this particular situation. So I think, and again, I will let other members of the board speak on this, but the plan is good. You just have a few square feet of too much impervious for us to be able, under the bylaw, to approve it, right? The set-offs are fine, you know, we've looked at it. The plan is good, what you guys want to do. You know, you're just a few square feet on the wrong side of this, and the bylaw is very specific about it, unfortunately. All right, Justin, I mean,
I'm in agreement.
okay.
Yeah, well, we are, you know, as our authority as a board, we are limited to the bylaw and what the bylaw
Right.
dictates.
If it given in us the ability to grant a special permit, even despite that number, right, that restriction, that's one thing. But, or even grant the variance, right? But we don't even have the ability to grant the variance. So my suggestion is, you still have to get a couple of things with Conservation Commission and deal with them on a few small matters. May I make the suggestion that you ask for one more continuance and see if you can figure out a way to get the impervious, proposed impervious coverage under 20%. And if you can do that, we can take a vote on this.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean,
All right. That's my suggestion. You don't have to take it. We can take a vote right now.
well, I owe it to my client. I mean, I know they've invested quite a bit.
Time and money, right? Absolutely. So I'll take that as
So yes, absolutely.
I'll take that as a request for one more continuance till the next.
Bob has some.
Just a quick comment.
Absolutely.
It seems to me, you know, the devil's in the details, obviously, but you're so close. There's a couple of ways that jump out at me to make that happen.
Okay.
One is to look at the porch.
Right.
Is that really a critical component of the program for the building? Another is to look at the bituminous driveway, which is extensive, and think about.
Can you narrow the driveway a little bit?
previous pavers. you know, maybe an apron in front of the garage, maybe an apron at the street. It doesn't have to be a large area, to drop you into the 20%, below the 20% threshold.
Okay. I did have a little hard time hearing some of that, but I will be in your office. And we'll talk about that and I'll make it happen. Absolutely.
So and then assuming you can do that, which again, I also believe that you can with what you're trying to accomplish here.
Okay.
Please submit the final plan so that we have it prior to the meeting,
Okay.
just, you know, not the morning of, right? So that we can see it and then we can take a vote on this. Okay. So
All right.
I will take that as a request for a continuance. All right, I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor for continuance?
Elizabeth, what's the date?
July, I don't know, because we didn't have any applications, and actually I can't do it in July because past the legal, we don't have to do it. It's whatever the third Thursday is in July, which would be. The 17th.
I'll be back. Yeah. All right, to the 17th. Okay,
All right.
so granted, thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. And ladies, sorry.
No. Absolutely. All right, then we will call the second application of Jessica Williams, Sale Architects, 46 Railroad Avenue, Duxbury, on behalf of Jeffrey T. Lennox, 50 Eli Avenue, requesting a special permit finding in accordance with MGL 48, Section 6, and Section 810.2B of the Scituate Town zoning bylaws and or any other relief the Board of Appeals may grant to allow the raising of a dimensionally non-conforming single-family dwelling and the construction of a dimensional conforming single-family dwelling on the property located at 50 Eli Avenue. Do we have somebody?
Yes.
Please come up. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Jessica Williams, my personal address is 1243 Tremont Street in Duxbury. And if the moderator could please allow Dylan Brady, both audio and video, to, he's gonna actually make the presentation. And I do have, and I hate to do it, but we are here because of conservation, wetland protection overlay district. Similar to the last person, we had conservation give us some notes. We've made some changes on those on the drawings. So this is a drawing that indicates all the things that conservation asked for. It's very little in terms of change, but the deck changed a little bit. So I have 3 copies for you.
Thank you very much.
So this is different than the April 25th.
That's correct. And it's only different, I believe, in the area of the deck.
Oh, the back.
Yeah. But I will have Dylan provide you the actual presentation because he actually knows what he's talking about better than I do.
So I should take down my shared screen.
Yes, I think if you can let Dylan share his screen, use that plan that I just delivered.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. So again, yeah, for the record, Dylan Brady with Grady Consulting, here to present Jeffrey Lennox at 50 Eli Avenue. So I'll just get right to it. The existing dwelling, shown in the gray hatched on the left side viewport here, is non-conforming to the front yard setback. The building setback line is shown in the dashed red line, and it is a 20.6 currently setback from the front property line, where it needs to be required 30 feet. The proposed dwelling is shown on the right here in a dark orange, is proposed at 30.3 feet. So it is dimensionally conforming in every way for the Residence 3 zoning district. We are also in the Watershed Protection Overlay District. So for the proposed dwelling, we have become FEMA compliant. The existing dwelling is not. There's no engineered flood openings. The existing dwelling will have a total of 9 smart vent model flood openings, and the proposed coverage porch will be on footings. So it'll be fully FEMA compliant, and it'll be fully horizontally zoning compliant. And with that, I'll just turn it over to the zoning board with any questions you may have about the project.
All right. Thank you for that.
No, I don't really have.
How we
Any
doing?
comments? I do
Let's see.
note that the proposed reconstruction is compliant, and obviously when you get the drawings for the building itself, it will need to meet all the FEMA regulations, the flood zone, which it's in. But,
So what's the total impervious on this one?
So it's.
Yeah.
I'm trying
They're
to.
losing 13 feet, they're shrinking their impervious.
Right, but what's the total?
Yeah, so we've been working with conservation on this, so it's going to be different from the April plan. So the plan in front of you that's dated June 25th. The total impervious proposed is 2,660 square feet. The existing is actually 2,673, so we're actually decreasing the impervious from existing.
How big's the parcel?
The parcel is 24,860 square feet. If you're looking for percentages, the proposed percentage coverage is
Yeah, so you guys are
10.7%.
Yeah, so you're at 10 to 11% impervious. which is
Correct.
Under, perfect. Okay, so different than the other situation. We want to hear. So you're, all right, so let's check off a couple things. Conforming size lot, conforming width, conforming frontage, height will conform as proposed. We're taking an improper front setback, and that will become conforming. Left and right yard setbacks will conform. Rear yard setback will conform. We're 36% increase in the house. We are at under 11% for total impervious area. In fact, we are decreasing the impervious area. Am I missing anything, Bob?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Do we have any commentary? I'm going to go into the room and then online. Any public commentary in the room on this project? Going once, going twice, sold. Any public commentary online?
No.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public commentary.
I'll make a motion on the second application of Mr. Williams on behalf of Jeffrey T. Lennox of 50 Eli Avenue, Massachusetts, to request special permit finding in accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 810.2B of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaw, and or any other relief before the field may grant to allow the raising of the dimensionally non-conforming single-family dwelling, the construction of the dimensionally conforming single-family dwelling on property located at 50 Eli Avenue, Scituate, Mass. And per the plan of Grady Consulting dated.
I can't see it because it's.
Dated today.
June.
So June 25th.
June 22, 20 what? 25?
25th. Yes, sir.
23rd, thank you.
June 25, 2025. And the board finds such raise and rebuild does not create a new nonconformities and to the extent that it intensifies any existing nonconformities. Such intensification is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Granted. Thank you. Easy one. Yep.
Do you need more?
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Well,
Have a
that'd
good
be
night.
fine. If we just get the PDF of it. that'd
Yes,
be-
that would be helpful for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, with that, we will move on to the third application of Heather and Steve Marshall, 17 Nelson Road, Scituate, Mass, requesting a special permit finding in accordance with MGL 48, Section 6 and Section 810 of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaw and or any other relief the Board of Appeals may grant to allow the lifting of a pre-existing non-conforming house to pour a new foundation and rebuild a lower level and second floor new roof on the property located at 17 Nelson Road. We have somebody here.
Hi.
Name and address for the record, please.
Heather Marshall, 17 Nelson Road. I am the owner and architect for the project.
Awesome.
I was here in 2021 when I was gonna raise my house and rebuild, but financially and interest rates did not allow us to do that. So I have had my approval lapsed, so now I'm here. We have downsized our project significantly. Our house is an old beach house on piers. It has no structure, no foundation, and our roof is badly leaking. So for us to rebuild our roof, we need a proper foundation. So the project
okay.
is to lift the house,
Right.
pour a frost wall, build out a lower level because it's already lifted. So we're just gonna be lifting 30 inches higher just to get a hole downstairs. And then rebuilding the second floor to be a true second floor, because we're looking at it. In addition to the plan, and I think you guys might have the updated site plan, so the house is non-conformant with front setback, the lot size, side setback, it's a very small lot. With talking with Bob recently, with fire codes and building codes, being 2 feet from the property line
Right.
makes it a whole bunch of issues. So we are gonna be lifting, but we're also gonna be shifting the house over 3 feet. So we will have 5 feet of property, and that's,
So-
and that's to get out of the fire.
Right, okay, so the front yard setback, let's go through this carefully. A front yard setback exists at 16.4 feet. You're not gonna change that, right? Okay. The left side setback, right, which is what you were talking about, 2 feet,
Yep.
is gonna move to 5 feet.
Correct.
Okay. The right side yard setback is going to go, was 21.4 feet. It will now be 3 feet less.
Yes.
Okay, whatever that number is, 18.4 feet, right? Which is still conforming. Okay, the rear is required 20 feet. What's your rear?
So we
Technically,
have-
you,
Yeah, we're.
I know it's the
trying-
ocean, but-
Well, no, we're trying, so we
Okay.
don't really have a.
okay. Bob, is there no,
I think you might, put the point of the compass at the apex of the triangle and swing a 20-foot, arc if you wanted to find out the rear yard setback.
Similar to a
Obviously,
corner
doesn't
lot.
make any difference to this project.
right, you're not changing that,
No.
right? So it's unchanged, right? Undersized lot, undersized width, frontage is undersized, yes. And you will be going from 21 feet still to 27 feet, correct? Height,
Oh, yes, that's the same, yeah. That's
right,
all.
sorry, with a 78.9 percent increase in overall square footage. Great. Right, you're 79% increase in square footage, you're only going up 6 feet effectively.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Okay. Comments, Bob?
Heather, where do you stand with the conservation commission?
We just submitted it today, actually, the amendment, and they accepted it.
Okay.
We had to update the site plan to show the erosion sock to just come in and, details for the erosion sock, but it's pretty minimal. It hadn't really changed much from that.
And that doesn't change anything on the May 5th site plan, correct? Cool. Board questions at this point?
No, this was the easy one.
Any questions from people in the room? Yes, name, please come up, name.
As she said, we were here 4 years ago. I'm not able to oppose the project. We don't know what the new plan was. We didn't know what the new plan was.
Right.
So the last time, Heather was given the commissioners actually come to our property to the construction. And wondering if there was that going to be the condition on.
As of right now, no subcontractors need to access beyond that 5 feet. So, should be well within, but if there was a subcontractor that needed to go over onto your property, we would go back to that site access agreement.
Well, site access agreement.
It's expired.
It's expired.
Yeah, we
So
do have to.
it's a hard to do. We also, we're gonna put up construction policies that.
As of right now, no, we are not.
I mean, they're 5 feet off that side, right? So that's, you guys can.
Yeah, but the application didn't indicate that, so.
Right, no, you're absolutely right, it doesn't.
Because we were working with the building
Right.
department and that's when the fire code came up, so that's when, we shifted.
Right, so you're absolutely right. We got, I mean, this is a May 5th plan, we got it sometime after that, so. Any other questions?
No, great, we're looking forward to it, we're really happy. That was a great architect, she's done possible, this town, so I'm sure. I know it's gonna be a great vision.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, very fair questions, right? Anybody else in the room? Anybody online?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, you wanna?
I'll make a motion on the third application of Evans Street Marshall, 17 Nelson Road, Mass. To request a special permit finding in accordance with MGL chapter 48, section 6, and section 10, defense of the zoning bylaws, and or any other legal grant. Allow the lifting of the pre-existing non-conforming house or a new foundation or build a lower level and second floor / new roof, a property located at 17 Nelson Road, Scituate, Mass. Current plan of James McGrath dated May 5, 2025, and the board finds that such lifting and
Such construction.
this construction does not create any new non-conformity to the extent that it intensifies any existing non-conformity, since intensification is not potentially more detrimental to the neighbor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ma'am. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All right. Then we will now call the fourth application of James E. and Anna R. Scotland, 10 James Way, requesting a special permit finding in accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 6, Section 810.2 of the Scituate zoning bylaw, and or any other relief the Board of Appeals may grant to allow additions to their single-family home, which represent an increase exceeding 20% in floor area on the property located at 10 James Way. Thank you. Name and address for the record.
Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering.
Mr. Morris, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Please.
Representing the property owners, James and Anna Scotland. Also with us in the audience is general contractor, Chris Barber, tonight. As was just read into the record, we're seeking a special permit in accordance with section 810.2 and finding in accordance with Mass General Law 48, section 6, for an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming single-family home at 10 James Way. The property is located in the R2 zoning district. The home was built in 1954. It's approximately 1,244 square feet in size. The lot itself is non-conforming with respect to lot area. It's a 14,000 square foot lot. It's also non-conforming with respect to lot width. It's 100 feet wide. Bylaw requires 125. The home itself is non-conforming with respect to the right side setback. The right side yard setback is 12.1 feet, 15 feet is the requirement in the bylaw. The proposal is to construct two additions, one off the front of the house, approximately 26 by 14 feet, and the second one off the rear of the house is approximately 15 by 15 feet. Both additions fully comply with all setbacks, front, side, and rear yards. We don't affect the non-conformities in any way. They're single-story additions. The total square footage when the house is done will be 1,833 square feet. It represents a 47.3% increase. Again, we're not creating or intensifying any existing non-conformities. A home of 1,833 square feet is in character with other homes in the neighborhood. Then turn it over to you.
Do we have any, it's the theme of the night, not in the Water Resource Protection District, anything like that, right? Just checking. Yeah, I kind of know what this is. Bob, thoughts, comments on this project?
Really no comment.
Public, I mean, it's a simple one. Public commentary from anyone in the room? Any public commentary by anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, this one's,
Make a motion on the fourth application of James E. and Anna R. Scotland and James Waits to Mass to request a special permit finding in accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 810.2 as the bylaw and or any other relief before the building grant to allow the additions to their single family home with reparation and having exceeding floor area on the property located at 10 James Waits on Mass. North Engineering in May 8, 2025, and that the board find that such construction additions does not create a new non-conformity to the extent that it intensifies any existing non-conformity, since such intensification is not substantially more detrimental to the.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we will call the fifth application. David and Rosemary Lockwood, 10 Harbor Heights Road, Scituate, requesting a finding in accordance with sections with Scituate zoning bylaws, section 810.2C and or MGL chapter 48, section 6, and or any other relief the Board of Appeals may grant that the alteration, extension, or structural change in the form of an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming single-family home on a pre-existing non-conforming lot at 10 Harbor Heights Road will not be substantially more detrimental or injurious to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure.
Good evening. My name is Bill Armberger, 28 Highway Drive. I'm the attorney of Garza, Louise and Harris. I'm here tonight representing the homeowners, David and Leslie Lockwood, who are on the team. And additionally on the engineers from McKenzie Engineering, right now, Rick Smith and Donald Valley. And just as far as the brief presentation on this situation, this is a modest addition to an existing single-family house that's pre-existing, and the lot is also pre-existing. The nature of it is, and we are not increasing any non-conformities in this. The lot is 9,420 square feet, 10,000 square feet is required in the zone. The lot frontage on this lot width is 82.72 feet versus 100. And in addition to that, the only non-conforming is pre-existing. Non-conforming is the side yard setback. This is in the rear of the house, so it does not increase any of those matters. And it's a two-story property, 745 foot addition, and there's no wetlands on here. And then back to the fact that this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot shown in 1947 land court plan, and the company's home was built in 1952 with the business district and the business overlay district. There is increase of and on the chart, there's increase in the size of the home by 705 square feet, or 25.75% increase. And the increase in impervious surface on the lot would be, I think about 8.6%, as it says on it. So the rear of the house, very tasteful, and lot was very excited for them to get a primary bedroom themselves. And we comply with all the requirements on section 6 and section 820, 22C of the bylaw. So
just, thank you. And I'm trying to read the plan. I'm getting both nearsighted and farsighted more and more as the days go on. So the left yard setback is at the nearest point 5.4.
correct.
That's right. And where the addition hits, is that 8.8 or 6?
8.8.
That's 8.8, right?
Yep.
So it's more than 8 feet. Great. So that.
Can I say something real quick? I appreciate what the architect did in notching this to keep it within the building lines,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, no, that's
No,
why I asked the question.
That was well done.
Yeah,
You know.
so it keeps it within sort of that envelope and those lines to
Yeah.
really not put in any encroach into the non-conforming areas, if you will. Bob,
Really, I have no comments. Certainly it seems to confirm with all of the requirements of the bylaw for this situation. Staying within the setback.
Yep.
Zones and
Yep.
close to not really even come before the board at all. It would be just a small, slightly smaller. I
Right.
Yeah.
Permitted it correctly.
right, and then that's really, I mean, non-conforming lot, all that, but yes, it's just a little bit larger. Thank you. Anybody from the room here? Any comments online?
I'll make a motion on the fifth application of David and Rosemary Lockwood of 10 Harbor Heights Road, Scituate, to request a finding according to the Scituate zoning bylaw, section 18.2C and/or in the chapter 48, section 6, and or any other reason the board is to grant the alteration, extension, or structural change in the form of an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming single-family home on a pre-existing non-conforming lot, 25 heights, roads, pictures that. Per the plan of Kennedy dated May 16, 2025. Does not create any new nonconformities, and to the extent that it testifies any existing nonconformities, such as application is not potentially more difficult to be.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Granted.
Very much.
Thank you for.
We'll submit a proposed decision with,
Thank you.
With the, so.
Great, beautiful, we love it.
Okay. You can do some of the other ones.
Yeah, if you want to.
Just bang them out for us. Thank you. All right, in our sixth and final, so before I call this one,
7, 8.
I'm sure there will be public commentary. I see people still here, so I assume they're here for that purpose. A couple of guidelines, please be civil. Please be as brief as you feel you can be, because we don't want to be here all night on this. But we do want to hear from the public, so I don't want to, cut that too short. But just, in the interest of everybody's time and effort.
Mr. Chairman, could I request a very short recess?
Because you believe that this is going to go a little bit, yes. So I think we will take 5, and then we will get started in 5 minutes. Call our 6th application of the evening, 3A Service Station Corporation, 32 Fairview Ave, Scituate, Mass. On behalf of Edward Scarzelloni and Edward H. Scarzelloni, and Edward H. Scarzelloni Trust, appealing the notice of violation dated April 1st, 2025, pursuant to MGL 48, Section 8 and Section 920.2 of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaw, and are requesting a Section 6 finding special permit pursuant to MGL 40, Section 6, Section 820 of the Scituate Town of Scituate zoning bylaw. Subject to the property is 781 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate, Mass. 02066. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, the local land use lawyer of the TTN law. And I represent 3A Service Station Corporation. To my left and your right is David Weston, who is the president of 3A Service Station Corporation, which leases the property at 781 Chief Justice Highway, where it operates the Sunoco Auto Service Station, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It's behind you, across the street. The property, which consists of 2 lots, is owned by the Edward Scarzelloni Trust, and Edward Scarzelloni, the original name is Scarzelloni, is also here this evening. The auto service station and its accessory uses have operated on that property continuously since the 1930s. The property is located within the R1 zoning district, and these uses predated the adoption of zoning in Scituate in 1946. And while I know you want this presentation to be brief.
Oh, no. No, I mean, we want it to be full and fair. It's just, I know there's gonna be a lot of public commentary, so,
Understood. So I'm compelled to make sure that the
Absolutely.
zoning board of appeals understands how we got here. This is a well-known, I might offer some personal commentary, a well-run business. Hundreds, if not thousands of cars pass by it every day. Mr. Westman is investigating redeveloping the property to also include a coffee shop with a drive-thru. And this spring, as with any commercial property tenant, met with various town officials to discuss that project. By way of disclosure, at least one town official did not like the idea of a coffee shop and drive-through. And shortly thereafter, in fact, on April 1, he received a notice of violation with the local building commissioner. That notice of violation contained activities that we assert have been visible on this property since at least 2016, almost 9 years ago. While not an issue for the ZBA, we want to be aware of this unusual chronology about a business owner in town going to discuss the project and shortly being served thereafter with a notice of violation concerning open and obvious conditions. As we served in our appeal.
What date was that meeting?
Remember?
I don't actually recall either. It was literally a week. We met on Monday or Tuesday. Following week, we got the registered virus, so we were.
And again, briefly, because the first notice of violations is less relevant. Respectfully, there were factual errors in it. While I discussed zoning violations, there were no citations of any specific zoning bylaw that had been violated. And instead, there were references to the town's general bylaw. And then there was a statement asserted that town intends to prohibit any increase in commercial activity along the 3A corridor, with no citation to anything in the zoning bylaw. If there is something in the zoning bylaw or some regulation in the town that supports that, I'd like to understand that. It's an odd statement to find in that letter. There were 3 uses in particular that were identified in the notice of violations. The first was the storage of boats. The second, the parking of motor vehicles and trucks. And the third, the operation of a woodlot. There's wood stored and sold on the property. There's no wood processing. It's a woodlot operation. We kindly appealed the notice of violation, and as you indicated, also requested alternative relief by way of a section 6 finding or special permit, particularly if we need it for motor vehicle storage and the woodlot operation. Again, Mr. Westman's a good citizen in the town and immediately agreed to remove the boats, one of which was his own boat. And so I believe that issue is moot. Mr. Vogel then amended the first notice of violation and sent the second notice of violation on day 1, 2025. That rescinded the general bylaw violations and alleged specifically violation of section 10, violations of section 10, which are your use regulation. The assertion is that at that time the storage of boats, motor vehicles, and the woodlot operation were prohibited in the R1 zoning district. Again, we kindly appealed that amended notice of violation, and I believe that's the relevant document for the accident appeal. As I indicated, the automotive service station predated the adoption of zoning, and while this is not really a subject of this matter, there was also a separate retail store located on the property at the time. As I've indicated, the property has long been used for commercial accessory uses. And I'm just going to highlight one, which was a towing business, which, as I indicated in our appeal, operated for decades on the property. In fact, through 2016, which is a relevant date for this discussion. In fact, the town of Scituate was a major customer of the towing operation. And again, because we want to be transparent with full disclosure, Mr. Scarzaloni actually in 1967 and then in 1968 obtained permission to take down the then existing building and construct a new building at a different location on the property. That was approved under the old planning. Interestingly, it was suggested to me at one point that these were variances. I don't think that's the case. There are specific references to Section 5 under the Zoning Act, which is Section 6 of the current Zoning Act. And Section 5 of the old Zoning Act addressed pre-existing non-conforming uses. The permits are oddly labeled, which likely led to confusion. They're labeled for permission or variance to improve or alter a non-conforming use. I think there's some misunderstanding that somehow those are variances. It's my opinion that they're essentially equivalent to special permit under the current zoning act because they specifically address non-conforming use. I really don't know why it necessarily needed a special permit for that use. It was an existing use. There's no reference to any dimensional non-conformity. Perhaps there was a concern regarding the anticipation of a non-conforming use. It's not spelled out. I'm simply guessing it's based upon those old permits. And again, by way of disclosure, there was in 1970 permission denied for proposed new vehicle rental business that was being proposed in the property as an accessory use. As I mentioned, the towing operation, which is contained within a fenced area, stopped in 2016, and thereafter, that fenced area has been used for the parking of vehicles and trucks associated with the Northern Oaks landscaping operation, and also used for the woodlot. As I indicated, I'm just part of repeating myself, those uses have existed open in August without complaint for years. The woodlot operation is almost a part-time operation. It operates only during the week, Monday through Friday, on the hours of 9 to 12, and on nights or weekend operations. And as I mentioned, it's just storage and sales and milk processing. We respectfully suggest that the parking of motor vehicles within that area is simply a continuation of the exterior storage of vehicles associated with the existing towing operation with no intensification of any non-conforming. There are vehicles parked in that area for decades. Those vehicles continue to be parked in that area. In this case, they're simply owned and operated by Northern Landscape. And in fact, the parking of those vehicles is less intensive than the former towing operation. There used to be deliveries 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, flashing lights, noise at all hours of the night, where the town, among other businesses, would tow damaged vehicles which were stored there. That doesn't constitute a zoning violation. If, however, this board believes that abuse which has existed for some time has resulted in intensification, we're asking you for section 6 slash special permit. Alternatively, it could be considered a change of use permissible in section 820 of the zoning bylaws, which allows the change of one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use, provided you demonstrate that the new use is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. There's no argument that can be made that that parking of vehicles, which has been encouraged decades, is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The wood lot operation, as I stated in my letter, is a more difficult argument to make as a continuation of existing non-conforming uses, which is why we are seeking a section 6 finding / special permit for change of use. Again, the woodlot operation is less impactful than the former towing operation. And again, there's no evidence whatsoever that it is not substantially, the new use is not substantially more detrimental than the prior existing use. And in fact, if there had been any detriment associated with either the storage of vehicles or the woodlot operation, we would assume that it would have been brought to the attention of the town shortly after those activities commenced, again, years ago, and not after Mr. Westman's meeting. So we're happy to answer any questions. Again, with respect to the motor vehicle storage, we don't believe that that's a zoning violation. It's a continuation of the existing non-conforming use. But we're seeking alternative relief. We're seeking alternative relief with respect to the woodlot operation. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple, again, questions. The meeting with the town was in April or so? Okay.
What's the outcome to that meeting? Was to come to this board, but not for any of these reasons. We have had a store operating on that location. Prior to the gas station, there was a store when it used to be Grove Street prior to Manlock Road, dating back prior to 1935. there was a store there. That store still exists in the parking lot of the Wild Brothers Tire in North Situate. Little building in the front corner. There's been a store over here since 1935. And they said the outcome of that meeting, Rob and the planning board said we do not have a license for a store. And then if we want to do the coffee shop, first thing we need to do is come to see you folks and get a permit for the store. However, that store pre-existed the zoning. It's been in existence since 1935. We've been paying, I've got tax records showing we've been paying tax on it since 1936. And we've maintained an active food permit with the town every year.
In North Situate.
Right here in Situate. I get
No,
inspected
in North
twice a
Situate.
year by the Board of Health.
If I might, just, I think that's background, the retail
So
store was not a violation in the letter. We're going to address that, we're going to address this separately.
So-
The physical building is in North Situate.
Right.
The
Okay.
use has been
The
contained
use,
in
okay,
in the
the use is great. A couple of things, I just want to make it clear that, you know, there's an implication here that something happened and there was a reaction to the complaints that were received by the building commissioner, right, which are part of the record, were received in February, right? So they predate any meeting that was had with the town, right? So I take umbrage, if you will, to the implications there, right? That being said, thank you for your commentary. I will turn it over to Bob for Bob's comments on this. We have a memo from Bob on kind of how this has played out. Anything that you want to address sort of specifically here, right? So we have two issues. One is the appeal. And second is the request for a special permit to allow for these additional uses, right?
Point of order.
Yes,
This
please.
is an appeal to a decision by the building
Building
commissioner.
correct.
So should we be soliciting his input at this point? Just,
Yeah, well,
okay,
yeah, that's what I'm, that's.
okay,
Right, we, like in a court, right, they have said their piece, right? This is the building
Okay, all right.
commissioner's rebuttal as such to their position.
All right.
So I want to split out the appeal first, right? Just from a logical standpoint, and then we'll talk about the additional relief that has been requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, rather than going point by point, which I did in the last part of the memo I sent to you, I'd just like to, I think, read into the record as a start. My take on the sort of background of the situation.
Absolutely.
And make the point that it is my interpretation, obviously, and go from there. I did receive complaints about the activity and the general appearance of the rear part of the site. And I want to start saying that, by saying that Mr. Westman is absolutely a good citizen of the town, maintains a very well-run and well-kept establishment for the service station and gas station. I live on Manlot Road. I go by that station, I don't know, 20, 30 times a week probably. So there's no dispute about that. The activities that occur on the rear part of the site, I believe, are outside the scope of what that site has traditionally been used for, and certainly outside the scope of what the zoning relief, which has been granted one way or another over the years, contemplated. I did, as I said, receive 2 complaints from citizens early in the spring in writing, which is what we require. We don't take anonymous phone calls and act upon them. And it's been my consistent practice to really avoid proactively seeking out potential zoning and bylaw violations particularly in cases where public safety is an issue. Things like unpermitted storage pods, sheds which don't meet setback requirements, half the sheds in town don't, that sort of thing. But having said that, when a specific situation, as this one is brought to my attention, I agree in writing through channels. It's clearly my duty to follow that up, and that's what I did. So in April, I issued a letter of violation notice to Mr. David Westman, the station operator. The notice of violation provided a time period of 30 days, during which visible progress towards remediation of the violation should be observed, with continued progress toward satisfactory resolution going forward. Mr. Westman's initial response was positive. Several boats which had been stored on site were removed, as were an 18-wheeler and several other vehicles. The remaining vehicles were neatly parked in rows. I was heartened. Progress was indeed visible. However, use of the site has since reverted to what I consider a non-conforming status, even more blatant than that which prompted the violation notice. It appears to me, and I think it's obvious to anyone going past the site, that Northern Oak Landscaping has basically moved their operation to the rear part of that site, lock, stock, and barrel. All of their vehicles, all of their equipment, stockpiles of loam, mulch, etc. I noticed this afternoon a large front end loader dumping earth into a very large dump. And that type of activity, I don't know, I can't imagine what grounds could be relied upon to excuse what's going on there now. I totally agree that the site is pre-existing non-conforming for use by a gas station, a service station, and associated uses, but it's completely beyond me how what's happening there now falls within that envelope.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Let's take a little, and we'll have some more dialogue in this, obviously. Public commentary from the room on this. There's no one in the room that wants to speak on it? Okay, we have public commentary by anyone online? No public commentary. Well, I mean, there are people here, usually people want to say something, so, and if you don't, that's okay, I'm not convincing anyone. Name and address for the record if you want to speak, please.
Marion Stark-Long, 766 Chief Justice Virginia. If this is gonna bother anybody with trucks or anything else, it's me. I'm directly across from both where both those businesses are. I'm not hearing people breaking into cars that are stored in the tow pen all night long. I'm not hearing wreckers coming in and out all night long. I'm not hearing impact wrenches running all day long. It's a much lesser use for the area than what was there before. And it's not being run all day and all night. It runs just during morning business hours. They're done by 5 o'clock and everything's shut down. It's peaceful and quiet up there. It's not hurting anybody what's being done there. It's a much lesser use of the property than what had been there since 1934.
Thank you. Anybody else? From the audience, yes, name and address for the record, please.
Patricia Wagner, 14 Alexander Place. This is brought to my attention. I'm also the chair of the planning board, so looking at this with great acuity. We read the 1936 and the 1958 zoning bylaw. A landscaping business is not allowed on that property or anywhere, and it's my understanding. And when I lived before the state, I argued about this building, This is a green acre that is established in our general bylaws, that there is no commercialization further on 3A.
It's not further commercialization. This was grandfathered in, that piece of property, when 3A came into his family land and separated the gas station from the house. It used to all be one piece of land, the whole thing, and it was woods, and there was no 3A. When 3A went in, that corner was grandfathered business, that corner. So long as we do not shut down for an extended period of time, that corner is grandfathered in business. Got nothing to do with freehold.
And but
And they have done that.
but with all due respect, a landscape business under the zoning bylaw is not going to be allowed.
The landscaping business is not operating from the station, parking vehicles at the station. It's not all of their vehicles. Those excavators are not. That belongs, that's work being done for the town of Scituate, by the way. For the work being done up at Henry Turner Vale, they have no other place to do their work. So when we've had this discussion,
I wasn't aware of that.
when they did Manlock Road here, I let them store equipment, and I don't charge them. I let them store equipment over there, and Bob came up because we had a complaint then. He came up because there were trailers on the block there. And he had said, no, we have 90 feet, it's part of the business zone there, and the trailers were within it. We were okay at that time, but now for some reason this is not.
So,
But Northern Oak operates out of Clap Road, it's got a big barn there, it's got all his equipment, excavators, loaders, most of the equipment all over there, and that's where he operates from. He parks the
And if I might share, all I can do is respond to the notices of violation. And it is unclear to me in either of the two notices of violation that there was concern regarding the stockpiling of landscaping materials. I always understood the issue was vehicle storage. If that is now the concern of the building commissioner, we're happy to address that. But I'm doing my best to respond to what I understood to be the relevant issues.
so
And I should add,
would agree with that, the activity by Northern Oak came after the violation. It's only been the last few weeks.
and again, we're all,
been there.
but I think
Not to the degree there.
so we're happy to respond to the concerns of the building commissioner, which is why I think timing is appropriate here. I don't mind being publicly scolded, I get paid to do that. But if a complaint was made in February, I would have expected someone would have approached Mr. West and said, hey, listen, I got a complaint regarding some of these activities. What's the deal? Nothing happened. The only time that issue was raised after a meeting with the town to propose a development, which was not well received by a segment of town hall. So I do believe the chronology is relevant. We're happy to address any of Mr. Vogel's concerns. If this is a new concern, I'm happy to do so. I don't believe it's the subject of what's in front of you today. We're not seeking to authorize a landscaping business, we're seeking to authorize the storage of motor vehicles, which has been done for decades on that property.
so let me ask a couple of questions. With respect to those vehicles, as they're currently stored there, does anyone who is involved in that property, whether it is the owner or the lessee, receive any type of remuneration?
Yeah.
And who the,
And Chair, why is this relevant?
well, it's a question of what kind of business you're operating. You brought it up.
It's a commercial operation.
No.
We receive money.
Hold it. I'm asking a question. I want an answer to the question, because the question before us is, what are the permitted uses, right, fundamentally, of this piece of property, right? And whether those, right, and whether the uses as they currently exist are permitted uses. So we've heard comment.
Not whether.
If you interrupt me, I'm going to shut you down. You're going to let me finish my sentence. So my question is, what are the permitted uses, right? And what are you using it? What is it being used for? Before we get into right? What was grandfathered in and what wasn't grandfathered in. What is it being used for? There is a gas station. We all see that, we understand that. So I want to understand, what are you doing and who is you with respect to those trucks, right? You are not, you are not the operator of the landscaping business?
No.
Okay, I just wanted super clear, right? I didn't think you were, right? Any family member of yours operating the landscape business? Okay, terrific. Are you renting the space to that landscaping business? Okay,
The
Right.
same as we did for the towing business.
right, you didn't operate the towing business,
I did not.
right? You rented the space,
Rented the space.
so they could
paid
keep the
for
cars.
to be stored. Same as it is now.
Awesome. So, and in that rental, and the arrangement you have with them is that they are going to store what there? Anything else? Okay, so there should be no storage of anything else there, only vehicles. I'm asking, right? They're storing vehicles. That's what you're renting it to them for. Are you renting it to them for storing anything else?
No, we have some material there that comes and goes with the.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, we'll leave that for a second. The woodpile business, right? Your business?
Same arrangement.
Right, so you're not selling actual
People pay to
wood,
store cars there, you pay to-
right? So somebody is paying to store wood there. They pick up, I'm asking, they pick up and drop off wood there for delivery. Okay, so you are renting that space to a wood business, if you will, for the storage of wood. Okay, so let's, right? I want it super clear so that people can. Right. That's what I wanted to understand a little bit on. Now, I will turn it over to board members for additional questions. Those were my questions. I just want to know, what is it really actually being used for? Gas station, rental to a landscaping business for the storage of automobiles.
And
Rental.
equipment ultimately too, and equipment.
Loaders.
You may have one or two in there, inside the.
Vehicles and equipment nonetheless.
Fenced in area.
Right, and that's fair. I was considering equipment vehicles because they're all wheels, but.
Boats, campers, trailers, trucks, cars, anything was broken down or needed to be towed, eliminated, cleared out of some space. So it's the same, they all paid to use that storage space for the users.
Okay. Board questions?
Yeah.
How soon after the towing company, I think you said 2016, how soon after did they start renting the space?
Actually, I had, Scituate collision did towing until 2015. And I got pictures from Google Maps that show the tow trucks. And I'm not sure, Stephen, when did you? Was that, when you started your, about 4 years ago?
And sir, who are you? Just.
Secret.
And you store wood there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please. Oh.
You say that the towing operations ran until 2016. I have a program here that we have aerial photography over the years. It goes back to 2014. I worked for 3A Towing for between 97 to probably 2007 or so. He was the last one to use the fenced-in storage area at that place. Cape Way wasn't in there. My brother worked
I
for.
took the signs off of the fence when I bought it for Cape Way. And
They never used, my brother worked for Cape Way for that period, that time period.
And Scituate collision, Robbie.
And he stores cars there.
He did. Got pictures of his two tow trucks in the backyard.
He parked his tow trucks there.
And he towed it.
Yeah, that field that where the woodlot is has been empty since 2014. This program goes back to 2014, shows an empty lot up until, what did I say, 22?
I have two boats,
Yeah.
Stop. So.
2020, it's an empty lot. 21, it's an empty lot. Now, there are other cars assumed pertinent to the car repair business that works there. CJ had cars parked, around there that were customers, cars in repair, out of repair, and things like that. That's part of the gas station repair shop business. And I would expect to see, the guy with the tractor trailer started parking there when he was kicked out of St. Mary's.
No,
I'm-
that's a whole different.
No, that guy, I know he's,
Only if there's something he parks over at the same branch.
he was kicked out of there. I thought that's why he's over there now.
No,
That's not, all right, okay, all right.
That's Heather landscape. Well, he does.
Oh, I thought it was the guy over there.
So the guy, no,
All right.
totally different guy. But even before them, Teddy Bowes' truck has been there forever. We all, everybody knew Teddy.
Yes, Teddy was my brother's godfather, yes, we're very. So, yeah, so the cars, I expect to see cars parked there. But when you go by and you see Northern Oak, that whole fenced area with Northern Oak's business running out of there, and I mean, the latest aerial that I have from that, he's got a full-on, he's got mulch, bunch of trailers, all kinds of landscaping materials stored there. He's actively running his business out of it, whether he's running it out of his house, also, he's actively running his business out of there. The woodlot, it's not a use, accessory to a gas station.
We're not claiming this. First of all,
Yeah.
the woodlot operation is within the fenced area with a
Yes,
former towing
yeah.
area. And there have been activities in various portions of that. I'm not privy to, I presume you're a near map review.
Yeah.
Which is particular with dates. I don't know if it's leaf on, leaf off. I can't speak to that. I have no personal knowledge other than I also live in the neighborhood. I'm not going to testify here. We're not claiming that the woodlot operation is accessory to the gas station. We're saying that is a change from one non-conforming use to another, from the former tow lot area to a new non-conforming use. And the test under section 820 is whether that new non-conforming use is not more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. And as you've heard here, I don't think there's any question that the sale of wood within that fenced-in area has any substantial detriment. And certainly it's not more substantially detrimental to the towing lot operation. So we're not claiming it as an accessory use. We're seeking authorization of that change of use.
Hold it. I'm sorry, no, I apologize. Please finish.
Yeah.
So my point is that I think you're misunderstanding the relief that we're seeking.
Well, yeah, so that's where I want to get to it, because it was in something you said. I want to be super clear. Is the relief you're seeking for the storage of wood, or to run a woodlot operation out of that area? And is the relief that you're seeking the storage of landscaping vehicles and equipment, or to run a landscaping business, which arguably can include material, from that. So that's, I just, again, I'm trying to be super clear about this, about what we're really talking about, because this is all very sort of a super slippery slope. What we have, and just give me 2 seconds and I'll let you speak. What we have here is, a use that was permitted via I don't want to call it appeal, would be going in front of this board in the late sixties, right? You know, whether it was granted as a variance or some other way, right? It's not clear in how these decisions are written, right? And I think that's very fair, but maybe through a variance, maybe some other mechanism, right? And that's for a gas station, right? And that's fine. That's what we have. What we don't have is other permitted businesses, right, ever being permitted on that lot, right, since the 1968, 70 timeframe, other than a gas station. So I'm just saying from a permit standpoint, right, licensed businesses, et cetera, it's a gas station, repair shop, right, what it is right now, all good. So the question is, what do you guys, right, what's the future use of this property, which I think is where you're trying to go with it, and what is to be allowed? I was going to say permitted, but right, what is to be allowed and what is not to be allowed on the future purposes. Okay,
That's good. So I think you were stating with respect to permitting in the 1960s, that was simply relief granted for the new building there was and automobile service station and other accessory uses. And for whatever reason, the zoning board wanted some finding to allow the construction of that new building, but it's the same use.
Okay.
The towing operation in existence for decades. I can't explain the existence of that. I have a full title. There are no permits relating to that. Obviously, it's not a zoning violation. If there was a zoning violation, the statute of limitations for that zoning violation would have lapsed decades ago.
Sure.
So we can now address that by special permit.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, sir.
So the towing use would be an accessory, has always been recognized as an accessory use to a garage gas station repair facility.
There's no evidence at all that being considered an accessory use. I believe that that's a separate pre-existing.
Go to O'Brien's, go to Mick Bryan's, all the towing repair shops in the area.
That's,
Don't get me started about his operation.
I'm saying he doesn't have a gas station.
No, he uses Sean's for his police storage yard. Yes.
so I'm sorry, to answer your question, you're making an assumption that it was considered an accessory use. I think that the towing operation, when I'm told, dwarfed the automotive use on that location. So I don't think it was considered to be an accessory use, but there's nothing in the record that I can point to that.
There's nothing that says whether it was ever allowed or not allowed, but it existed there.
I can only assume that when it commenced decades ago, that if it was a violation, that it would have been identified as a violation in some relief sought.
Well,
We're now 50 years later, we're trying to figure this out. So I want to answer your question, Chair, because we were clear with respect to the request for relief. So with respect to the motor vehicles, I don't think that I consider a loader to be a motor vehicle. Motor vehicle trucks is, I think, the terminology used in all of the various letters, and we were trying to parrot that. I think that's a continuation of the towing storage of vehicles on the outside of that property, for which I don't believe we need zoning relief, but you can approve that either by the grant of a section 6 finding, we deem that to be the intensification, or if you think that that's a change of use, you can also permit that under section 820. The whole landscaping business, as I mentioned, was not called out in the notices of violation. We're not presently seeking that. I need to understand more about that, because I would tend to agree that the operation of a new landscaping business, well, I guess that could conceptually be a change in use. I mean,
Yeah,
you have a provision in your zoning bylaw, does it? I'd have to consult with Dave regarding that.
Yeah.
That was not part of our specific relief. With respect to the woodlot, we were very specific that And I was candid in my letter. I don't think we can identify that as a continuation of the tow lot operation, which is why we specifically requested change of use under section 820.
And again, I want to be super clear about where we're going with this, which is, is the relief sought, and I'll go back to what I said earlier, because it may matter to somebody, right? It may not, is storage of A, B, or C, right? In this case, you're looking for storage of wood, storage of equipment of some sort, or, right, and the ability to rent spaces to store equipment, right? Because that's a business, because that's changing the nature of the business and the property, right? The business is a gas station, renting space. Again, your argument is that that's grandfathered in. They rented space to people. Historically, we've heard some commentary here that sometimes that was not rented. It was just allowed. It was discretionary. So,
which is why I don't think it's relevant under the zoning bylaw with respect to the use. I just want to correct you. We request authorization of a wood lot operation, which also includes sales. It's storage and sales, because there's sales on that.
So are they selling from that lot? I mean, I see I see the phone number.
Well, let me just, they're processing the firewood on that lot. They're processing
firewood. That's what that is. They
Yeah.
cut it and split it. Thank you for
So
being
that becomes more than just somebody dumping firewood, somebody taking firewood. That's chainsaws, that's an intensification of a use. That's more than just parking dead cars, or, whatever. That's a big operation.
It's 3 hours a day.
Yeah, but, what
One or
if
two people over there for 3 hours a day?
running stop signs is illegal, but if I only do it 3 hours a day, is that'll make it less illegal,
I'm not going for illegal or doing
Yeah,
something
right.
illegal. I'm just saying, we had a use where we rented the space out for storage of vehicles. Now we're doing just a change of use, is what the request is, for a change of use that's not any more detrimental to the neighborhood or the town. It's supplying a service that the town uses and needs. We have at least 8 or 10 people that rely on that wood solely for their resource of heat all winter.
Right.
So there's a need for the town. It's not making a lot of noise. It certainly, I think, looks better than if you go by Sean's place, you go by McRyan's, and you see tractor trailers, trucks, boats, all kinds of stuff stored out back there. We're not doing anything like that.
I don't disagree. I think the
If the Northern
firewood,
Oak is something, you say it's more than parking the vehicles because they have an area where they load and offload material depending on the, they need the truck for something else. They dump some stuff out and then they load it back up. It's not a big deal. I can have them stop that.
I mean, I'll show you the pictures that I have that I'm looking at, but that's more than just.
storage of vehicles.
It's more than just casual leave it and pick it up. This is stockpile. Is
Again,
what I'm
so-
looking at,
so
but
I go back to my earlier comment, which is what are we, right? Is it a storage operation? Is it a processing operation? Is it a landscaping operation, or it is merely the storage of landscaping vehicles, right? So there's again, a bit of a slippery slope. We're hearing some of one, some of the other. I'm not saying anybody's saying anything incorrect, intentionally misleading anybody by any means, right? I'm just saying, I'm just trying to get to the real uses, right? The issues, right? Cutting firewood, but you have a bunch of wood stored there that has its own, right, issues associated with it from a health and safety standpoint, right? May be a problem, may not be a problem. I don't know enough to say that.
I would say it's better for health to have wood stored there than towing vehicles that are leaking.
Oh, right. So, who knows what the land looks like that if you test it, right? But, is it or isn't it a fire hazard? I don't know. I'm not implying that it is or it isn't. It's just a question, right? It's right. I haven't had, right? Fire department hasn't looked at it and said, this is safe. We think it's far enough away from the gasoline, right? I don't know. I'm not opining on it. I'm just saying, there's wood, there's gasoline, right? There is what there is for safety mechanisms for the garage operation. And then behind that is a pile of vehicles. Some of them are what they are, right? So again, want to be sort of super clear that what are we talking about? So,
If I might, Chair,
Please.
I was unaware that they're splitting wood on that site, so that is news to me.
Okay.
But we should include that in our request as part of the wood lot operation. And if Dave is willing to notify folks that we can't use that area for storage of materials, that would eliminate, Mr. Vogel and presumably the board's concern regarding the storage of landscape materials.
So I have a question, Bob, I have a question for you, which is, in this situation, especially where we have a service station, we have gasoline, and we have wood processing near it. Does the fire department need to look at this? Should they look at this?
Are you saying that settling torches inside the service bay are less of a fire hazard?
Yeah, but you have a permit for that.
But that's permitted.
That's what the automotive business.
Absolutely, 100%.
They cut off mufflers, brake lines.
Absolutely, and that's inside the building. And then I have wood outside the building, right? I don't know, I'm not saying.
Could be inside the building, could be outside the building.
Well, again, so acetylene torches, gasoline, wood, I don't know, right? Should the fire, if the fire chief is telling me.
Fire chief wants to come up and.
Right, if the fire chief is telling me this is completely safe, that's an information point, right, that helps us make decisions, right? That's all I'm saying, right? Because it's not just storage. Is it appropriate storage, right? Is it being stored? And I see it, right, as I pass by, it is fenced in, but it's open a good chunk of the day, right? The fence is open, they're moving stuff.
The fence is only open when he's taking the load in or out.
Right, and I've seen it open.
Otherwise, you can't really see it because it's just a chain for us.
Right.
To close it up, so
Right.
driving by, you're not.
Right, but I mean, it's open, it's not completely,
No, right.
right, it's not
Yeah,
isolated,
completely
right,
fenced in.
right. I understand that, I'm not implying anything, other than, what you're saying. So, again, I'm struggling with this because I think, we now have, again, what are the uses? What's really going on? We went from storage to processing wood. Again, okay, it's not unreasonable, but it's different. And then we went from storage of vehicles to there may be material there that is being loaded and offloaded, right? Which is effectively the operation of a landscaping business. Well, but that's part of this, what we're having this discussion,
right.
right? So we're not.
So let me, may I?
You can do whatever you, absolutely. You don't have to ask my permission.
Is it worth you guys sitting down with Bob and whether it's a member or two from the board here and kind of discussing what's going on, what we would like to see from this? Vehicle storage, I will argue all day long that the towing operation hasn't been in there since 97. But like I said, there's always been vehicle storage pertinent to the garage. If there is stationary vehicle storage, whether it's a bunch of landscape trucks parked for the night, it's, cars that are waiting to be serviced, I can understand that. Landscape, yeah, you're gonna have someplace to park 28 trucks. But it's the operation of, it's all the mulch and all the stone and everything that's there that becomes more than what it really should be. The firewood operation, it's different. It's not an accessory. It's not something you would expect to see with a gas station repair. However, I don't disagree that It's a lot better than junk cars that used to be there.
Yeah.
It's a quiet operation. I live on Stockbridge Road in a residential area. And my neighbor runs an industrial operation in a residential zone. And I was told we do it because where else is he gonna do it? I think you can make a similar argument here. Where else are they gonna do it? For the firewood side. I don't like the idea of running the landscape business right there. I think the operation you've got with, I know that Landis has been using that as a staging area for this project down here. I think maybe that should have been something that should have been run through and said, hey, Landis is gonna use the state as a staging area for 6 months. And when somebody complains, we go, yeah, it's Landis staging area.
Would be nice to know that.
Exactly.
Right. And
Just
then-
communicate with them about that.
And when you know that there's a time certain that the particular use is going to end, and nobody's going to then rely on it to say, we are now changing the nature of the property use based on this temporary use. So I mean, if that's the case,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's very different than that. So.
I wouldn't be ready to make any kind of decision on this, and I see some flexibility here that says maybe we talk about this a little more before we come to any kind of decision right now. It's where I am.
Yeah, we've already addressed the boat issue, right?
Yeah.
There was a boat, somebody complained about the boat, boat's gone. Great, okay. Part one, solved. There's some other stuff here. I would like to see. I'd like the fire chief, or whoever they would like to send.
Probably Pat Riley.
Yeah,
the
this inspector.
Who's
Yeah,
fire marshal.
fire marshal.
I honestly can't believe that there's any danger to that, but I'd be happy to run it by that.
Just run, yeah, they don't have to come, just run it by them, just to give me a level of comfort that if this is here, X amount of feet from that, with this behind it, right? You know, with maybe potentially piles of mulch, right, as it currently is. You know, do you see any risk that we would need to abate from that standpoint? Just to get through, it may not be a problem, right? I'm not saying it is or isn't. I am not capable of making that decision. I don't want to make that decision. May I make a suggestion? And I think to go. We don't rule on it today. Have a conversation with the building commissioner, kind of explore a couple of these things that we talked about, and come back with sort of a proposed solution, right? As we like, you know, we say in this, in the legal business, right? If you can come to me with a pre-canned opinion, I might, right? I might sign it, so to speak. But, you know, coming up with a plan, right? A plan that addresses some of these issues, that addresses what was in Bob's letter, and to the extent that there were, you know, citizen complaints, right? And we have a counter citizen that says much better than it used to be historically. Okay? All good, right? But let's see what we can do and put some guardrails around this, so we're not in a scope creep type of situation, where we are fundamentally in a residential area and abutting on 3A, and, you know, we're trying to do a little bit too much that might cause problems, right? I mean, you could see situations where somebody might want to do a bunch of, you know, high traffic stuff that is just dangerous, that we might not be interested.
You've been at that intersection long enough to
Right.
know that
7 days a week.
it's a horror show.
Right, and it has nothing, and arguably has nothing to do necessarily
Right,
with your
yeah,
business.
right, but we
It's-
don't want to make it any worse if we can avoid.
I'm not implying that your business does that.
When I met with Rob before, those flashing stop lights, they have not worked. And even after our meeting, you said you would call them and get them fixed. The one on this side worked for 2 weeks.
Right.
And it hasn't worked. And the one on our side never came back. Hasn't been in operation for almost 8 months. That made a big difference. You know, that made a big difference.
Yeah,
And there's
so-
a flashing warning light before, it, so people know there's a stop sign there.
Right.
Most of the accidents, I mean, the people are whipping down the highway and they're texting, or they don't see the stop sign and they blow right through and keep going somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, part of our theoretical concern, right, is lots of vehicles actively coming in and out, right?
However, just on the point on that.
Again, name and that.
Coming in and on through down, off, they're not coming in and out from Denmark Road. They're coming in and out.
The big opening at the end.
Yeah, and I understand, they're doing, huh? Yeah, right. So again, it's a scope creep situation, right? It's like, you know, it could snowball, right? So that's why I'm speaking about guardrails and sort of an appropriateness to that. So may I suggest, and you don't have to take my suggestion, but I think it's what my colleague here is implying, is that you request a continuance, you guys have a conversation, right, we kind of address some of these background questions, and think about what kind of guardrails you would be interested in, and then come back and propose those next time, and then, you know, we'll see, right? And I think, you know, that way we may be able, you know, it's assuming that there are guardrails that kind of meet everybody's needs, right? If we can get there, then, you know, theoretically we can grant what would have to be a special permit, yeah, relief from, because I don't know that we will find no violation, right? Like that we'll overturn the building commissioner's notice, if you will. But to your point, and I think it was a very smart way that you approached it, is we may be able to grant some kind of relief if we think the terms and conditions and the guardrails are there. Does that sound like something you would be interested in?
Sure, so since we requested continuance, we're happy to work with Mr. Vogel.
Terrific.
And come back to hopefully with an agreed upon
Plan
with conditions.
Right, exactly.
Incorporated into a decision that would make the board come.
So I will move for the continuance. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Adam, July 17th.
So again,
Or, I mean, we can do it whenever you need. Why don't you?
We have to put it.
Oh, we have to put it on the record, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
No.
Yeah, please, that's,
Can I ask, we kind of, you went back to the variance of the gas station. And
well, it's the documents that we have, whatever they mean, right? And
when, in our meeting before, and I said this earlier, the reason I initially was told Rob that I would come to this board was about the store license. That they said in that variance, it said service statement, said nothing about a store. And therefore, we do not have the right to operate a store, even though we have operated a store since 1935.
yeah, I mean, and you have.
And we have permits for it.
I think that's a discussion for another.
Yeah, I think that's
another
Okay, yes.
application.
Yeah, I think that's another
All right.
application.
Because that's gonna take some digging into.
Right, that's gonna take some
We've
digging.
already begun that.
That's
I don't wanna preview something that's.
Yeah, it's not baked
Yeah.
yet. Right, you're not
There's no
doing that.
project yet.
Yeah, it's not baked. So, and I, again, I think you get the idea. We like to see things that are pretty baked in. People have thought through the issues, not that you haven't here, but, all right, so, we're looking for a date. You're
Thank you,
checking.
I'm gonna work on my bill on the 17th. Unless, so you're going away on holiday?
No,
No.
I've had no vacation, thank you.
Yeah, you said we had nothing in July anyways,
So
right?
now we have two
now we
continuances.
have two,
That's all right.
Well, no, it's that we don't have to notify.
correct.
Correct, so that's fine. All right, with that, continue to the July 17th date.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yep.
Very productive.
Do you want to be part of the discussion?
I would be happy to,
Somebody
but
should be
that's,
from the board.
So,
Yeah.
Recognize that I'm the zoning enforcement officer.
right,
I
so
don't make the zoning,
right,
that's the board's job.
Yeah.
understood. So I think that would be great if you could do it, just because 3 days a week, I am
Yep.
70 miles
no,
away.
I'm happy to.
So it becomes difficult for me to attend those kinds of meetings during the week.
Do you wanna provide you a couple of dates when you're more available.
Yeah, why,
Yeah, let me get back to you on Monday.
okay,
Yeah,
so
I'll-
we'll do
I'll sit
that, we'll
with
do that
Bob.
offline. We have a
Put
little bit
something
more
up
business
tomorrow.
that we gotta take care of.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, and then we have one additional piece of business on the record, right? I think that
We're gonna do,
hold on, where's mine?
we're gonna do final approvals on
The first is the Stockbridge.
Stockbridge.
Final
Thank you.
site design.
All right, so we have, Stockbridge Landing 40B final project approval, right? The final site design as built plan for the Stockbridge Landing 40B project, right? So what do we need? We need a motion, right, to approve? Is that, we need a motion to approve the 40B?
Yes, basically what you're approving is the as-built site plans, completion and accuracy as attested to by the town's, engineer who's
Right.
reviewed the plans.
Right, so, I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Okay, and then on here, we have the approval of the meeting minutes. What meeting minutes are outstanding?
Unfortunately, still.
One, right?
none.
Okay,
Thank you.
so with that, I'll move,
The other thing.
well, that's not on the record. We're gonna do that after.
Oh, all right.
That's right.
This
Right.
isn't on the record?
No, it's
No.
not on the agenda.
Oh, all right.
All right, so, with that, I move to adjourn the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
So adjourn.